If you think I'm evil, just wait till you meet my variants.
Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. The Ant-Man movies, they've never been my favorites. It's not that they were bad, they just kind of happened and they were fun. So I didn't care that much about Ant-Man 3 when it was announced. But once it became Quantumania, that all changed. And yeah, my excitement is mostly thanks to the addition of Kang the Conqueror.
The one he's been talking about, the one that he's so afraid of, is Kang.
But after Loki, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is now the cornerstone that will influence the future of the MCU. And of course, Kang is the main focus here. So let's talk about how the Kang that we saw in Loki will differ from the Kang in Quantumania, and what's his plan, what's the Kang War, and how this impacts the MCU in the coming years.
But someone is coming. Countless different versions of a very dangerous person, and they're all set on war. We need to prepare.
Okay, before we start, we need to make sense of all the Kangs. The Kang in Loki, he isn't really Kang. He Who Remains is a variant of Kang, but based on what we know, he never became Kang the Conqueror. Also, because I'm going to talk about He Who Remains a lot in this video, and He Who Remains is a mouthful.
He who remains. She's still calling me that?
Let's just go with Immortus, because that's pretty much who he is in the comics and it just rolls off the tongue a little bit better. The Kang that we will meet in Quantumania is a variant of Immortus the Conqueror.
And what are you so afraid of?
Me.
And we got some big hints from Jonathan Majors himself in the latest Assembled episode.
As Kang begins to rear his head and do his deeds, in so many ways, he has no choice but to be in opposition or to be different from He Who Remains.
What this essentially means is that Kang and Immortus have no choice but to be enemies. Immortus wants to keep things nice and tidy, have one timeline that is protected by him and enforced by the TVA. That's the only way to prevent the multiverse from falling into chaos and war, which will mean the end of reality.
Without the me, without the TVA, everything burns.
But Immortus' sacred timeline has no place for any other Kang variants. They will all be erased from the timeline. So Kang must naturally oppose Immortus because he's fighting for his own existence. Kang is also going against Immortus to save his own timeline from being erased. And that's some interesting stuff. The idea of these two opposing forces battling across space and time in a paradoxical war where they must destroy each other or be erased themselves.
Who are you?
You.
No, not me, you.
Yes, I am you.
Just answer the damn questions. Who are you?
I have told you.
And I'm about to whoop your old ass, man, because I'm sick of playing games.
Think of the great lengths Immortus went to, forming the TVA, his tyrannical rule of the timeline, sacrificing his sanity to live in a dark castle at the end of time, just to protect reality from Kang. This immediately elevates him above any other villain we encountered so far in the MCU, even Thanos. But this also creates a zero-sum game for Kang. With the timeline branching off, now there are infinite variants of Kang across the multiverse. And, as explained by Immortus, his variants will discover the multiverse, make contact with each other, and eventually these warmongering Kangs will begin to conquer other universes. And that will lead us to the Kang War.
And an infinite amount of me start another multiversal war.
Kang himself must be aware of this outcome, with him now being a time-traveling Genghis Khan. Kang is now trapped in a Cold War with his variants. All it takes is one Kang to fire the first shot and the rest will follow. That is the origin of the multiversal war, the Kangs conquering each other's universes, which leads to the whole timelines getting erased, and not too long after, all of reality is in chaos.
Each variant fighting to preserve their universe and annihilate the others. This is almost the end.
Now there's an alternative, of course. All the Kangs can just agree to play nice, promise to maintain the peace, and nothing bad will happen.
I lose, you lose, I win, everything keeps spinning.
But can Kang truly trust the other Kangs, knowing very well what he himself is capable of? This is a truce based on the threat of mutual destruction. But again, all it takes is one Kang to break this truce, and war will follow. So why take the risk and wait for the other Kangs to make their move? Why not just attack first and dictate the war himself? And so Kang, being the conqueror that he is, will shoot first, and as a result will be the source of the Kang War. But before the war begins, Kang must take some steps to ensure his timeline's survival so he himself won't be erased. And his ace in the hole is inside a tiny realm in the multiverse. And it all starts with Ant-Man. Scott went inside the quantum realm to beat Yellow Jacket. This created a quantumly entanglement between Scott and Janet Van Dyne.
We think when you were down there, you may have entangled with her. Hank, I would never do that. I respect you too much.
Quantum entanglement, Scott.
which later allowed the Ant Squad to travel inside the quantum realm safely and rescue Janet. This opened a whole new realm of possibilities.
Pun intended?
No, happy accident.
The main one is time travel, which was discovered by Tony Stark. Now, this chain of events could be the inception that will later allow Kang to discover the multiverse and time travel. It explains how Immortus was able to take over the timeline, how the TVA can travel through time, and countless other things. And that's just because the quantum realm is its own universe where time is meaningless.
It means that you would enter a reality where all concepts of time and space become irrelevant.
So, time and space work differently in the quantum realm, which explains why 5 years in the real world was merely 5 hours for Scott during the blip.
Time works differently in the quantum realm.
Though it doesn't explain why 30 years in the real world was 30 years for Janet. I guess she drew the short stick on that one. But hey, she's still just as beautiful as she was 30 years ago, so there's that.
Meow.
Anyway, what I'm getting to is that the quantum realm is the key to Kang conquering. Here's how things might play out. In the 31st century, Nathaniel Richards discovers the multiverse through the quantum realm. So Nathaniel went inside the dimension, explored it, mapped it out, and eventually found a way to travel into the other universes. That should make sense since the realm is its own separate universe.
The quantum realm is like its own microscopic universe. To get in there, you have to be incredibly small.
So what's to say it's not also some type of gateway inside the multiverse? Anyway, the quantum realm is the safest place for Kang. This might explain that tiny city we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is theorized to be Chronopolis. And in the comics, it's Kang's base of operations, from which he rules all of his realms. So look, long story short, Kang traveled back to the 21st century, which serves as the origins of the time-traveling technology that he has perfected. He built a city inside the quantum realm where he will be safe from all of his variants, a place where time is irrelevant. Then he can weaponize the realm to win the multiversal war. If Kang doesn't take these measures, one of his variants will, and it's not about losing a patch of land or even a planet. Losing to other Kangs means being erased from reality. So in a way, Kang is the hero of his universe.
I will do whatever it takes to ensure the survival of my timeline. The survival of humanity.
He fights to preserve his timeline in his own Kangy way. And that just creates a fascinating motivation for him as a villain. But we can't forget about the Ant Squad because this is an Ant-Man movie after all.
'Cause it's my movie, my superhero movie. It's all about me, yeah, it's all about me.
Since they discover the quantum realm and its potential, they will travel to the tiny dimension and begin to explore it. And there's a lot to discover there, as Janet Van Dyne explained in a deleted scene.
There's so much we didn't know about this place, Henry. Worlds upon worlds, entire civilizations, far more than we ever theorized.
That will lead to the Ant Squad meeting Kang, which will result in a clash. And this might be the reason why Kang will decide to conquer Earth, since he can't allow any do-gooders, like the Avengers, to interfere with his plans. He already needs to worry about his variants, and he can't allow superheroes to get in his way. Better to just take over, one less thing to worry about. But there might be more to Kang's plan than just taking over the quantum realm and the world. Kang's biggest enemy is Immortus, who threatens his existence from the far future. It's sort of like Tenet, the future and the past are in a paradoxical war, and Kang is going to need his own temporal pincer maneuver.
We're running a temporal pincer movement.
That's a made-up word.
And that's how we get Iron Lad. Nate Richards is the younger version of Kang. In the comics, the 16-year-old Nate was rescued by his future self from a traumatic event that would have set him on the path to becoming Kang. So then, Kang takes Nate with him on a time-traveling adventure, trying to show his younger self how awesome he will one day become, and ensure that young Nate will grow up to become a conqueror like him.
I've come from the darkest timeline to make sure you take that job. It's essential to our future. You want it, idiot, so take it.
But this backfired, as Nate got freaked out, ran away to the past, became Iron Lad, and helped form the Young Avengers, and we're going to talk about them shortly. But Marvel always gives their own take on the comics, and the MCU's Iron Lad could get an interesting spin. So what if in the MCU, Iron Lad isn't destined to become Kang, but instead, He Who Remains?
Ooh, plot twist.
Meaning that he is the younger version of the variant that we saw in Loki, and the mortal enemy of Kang. So here's my idea. Kang traveled to another timeline to find Nate. The easy thing to do is just erase him from the timeline. But that's not Kang's way. He is a conqueror after all.
A conqueror.
So instead, Kang takes Nate under his wing, planning to change his fate and make sure that he will never grow up to be He Who Remains. Instead, he tries to mentor Nate into becoming the best version of Kang the Conqueror, meaning himself. This will turn his future enemy into his most loyal ally, his ace in the hole, a way to win this paradoxical war.
You need an ace in the hole.
However, things won't go as Kang planned, since the Ant Squad will foil his master plan and save Nate. Then Nate will become Iron Lad and join the Ant Squad against Kang. This team-up could lay the groundwork for the Young Avengers. Now this is something we brought up before, but the MCU is building towards the Young Avengers in the coming years. Cassie Lang is now all grown up, and she's probably going to become Stature in Quantumania, and other members of the Young Avengers have been popping up in different movies and shows throughout Phase 4. So I bet by the end of Quantumania, Nate and Cassie will form the Young Avengers. So going back to Kang, his role in Quantumania isn't going to be a one-off. Obviously, he's going to play a big part in Loki Season 2 based on that cliffhanger ending.
Kang is bent on destruction, and I'm so curious to see what Jonathan does in the future.
But Michael Waldron, who wrote and produced Loki, said that Kang is the next big cross-movie villain. And that means Kang will play a much bigger role than just Loki and Ant-Man 3. Since Loki leads directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Kang's presence may be felt there as well. Now, we did a video about Doctor Strange 2, you should check it out. Kang might be our next Thanos, with him being the big bad of Avengers 5 or whatever big MCU crossover movie this ends up being. Well, anyways, what do you think about all this? What do you think Kang's role will be in the movie? What actor should play Iron Lad? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.
'Cause it's my movie, my superhero movie. It's all about me, yeah, it's all about me. It's my movie, my superhero movie. You'll be lining up to see a movie all about me.